What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and we have just gotten some more details regarding the upcoming Torbjorn rework via an interview with lead designer Geoff Goodman. So let's take a look at what all he had to say and try to get an idea of what we can be expecting for the new Torbjorn. So first up, Geoff mentions that the main issue with Torbjorn is that he's too defensively focused. We need him to be more viable on offense in a non-payload situation. It doesn't mean he needs to be equal on offense, but we need him to at least not be a troll pick. It is good that Blizzard is kind of acknowledging Torbjorn's status there by saying he's a troll pick. As for making him more viable on offense, this is essentially the same thing we've seen them do with Symmetra, in that she was originally a very defensive builder hero, but after her rework, she's now actually viable on offense as well. And thankfully, it looks like they're trying to take Torbjorn in this same sort of direction. Now, as for the actual abilities, which you're going to end up seeing get changed, turrets are now deployed by being thrown instead of built immediately at Torbjorn's feet. And on top of that, they upgrade themselves automatically. No hammering required. Currently, in our internal build, he just tosses it out. Not super far, almost like a tracer pulse bomb distance. So you can kind of throw it like that and it deploys itself automatically on level 2. It takes a little time to do that, but you don't have to hammer it or anything. Now, I've been seeing a bit of debate here in the comments on this interview as well as on Reddit as for whether this means it instantly pops out at level 2 but takes time to actually deploy itself, or if it pops out initially at level 1 and then automatically levels up to level 2 over a short period of time. And from the way Geoff words it here, I think it's actually the former, which could then mean that the level 1 turrets are just gonna be gone entirely. We don't know anything for sure regarding that just yet, but it's looking like that is possibly what's gonna end up happening. Now, beyond just turret deployment, the other major change that Geoff talks about here is his ultimate Molten core, and it could actually be going away entirely. We may end up with a completely different ultimate at this point because it ties up too much of his power, but that's still very much in flux, so it's hard to say. First thing we did was try a lot of different takes on Molten core. Maybe we could make it really cheap and take some stuff away from it. We tried it so it only affects the turret and doesn't give you any buffs, and we tried the reverse so it only affects you. We definitely tweaked some of the base ability so you could reload faster, as that was frustrating before, and as of now, I think we've decided to move away from Molten core entirely. Now, if Molten core does end up getting scrapped entirely, I will be sad to see it go, as that was always my favorite part of his kit. I do think it's interesting that at this point we're starting to see a bit of a trend where heroes' ultimates are either nerfed down into being a standard ability, or possibly in this case, just being removed entirely. We saw that first with Mercy's Resurrect, and then most recently with Symmetra's Teleporter. However, since it sounds like Blizzard hasn't decided specifically what to do yet with Torbjorn's ultimate, it hasn't been verified just yet whether that's exactly what's going to happen again, but it does sound like it will most likely be the case. Now, unfortunately, this is about all that Geoff really talks about with regards to the upcoming rework. There's no mention of his scrap collection and armor pack abilities, so I'm assuming for the time being that those are going to go unchanged. And again, based on the way that Geoff words things, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not the level 1 turret is just going to go away entirely, or how the turret leveling up process is actually going to work exactly. While it's definitely exciting to get more information regarding this upcoming rework, it does sound like Blizzard is still in the middle of trying to get things worked out internally for him, so I do still think that it'll be a bit of time before we see any of these rework changes actually go to the PTR. Hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later, but Blizzard tends to work at their own pace, so we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening. Now, before I wrap up, I will also mention that these changes sounded rather familiar when I was first reading them in this interview. I thought for sure that the developers had already mentioned these things about the throwable turret and the changes to Molten core. And after I did a bit of digging, it turns out that these changes already have been mentioned in a special interview with acclaimed streamer Seagull. For those of you who remember back when Wrecking Ball was just added to the PTR, Seagull did a live stream of the new hero while interviewing some of the Overwatch developers. One of these developers was Geoff Goodman, and he actually did talk talk a bit about the Torbjorn rework during that time. Now, thankfully, someone by the name of Fredinator transcribed this entire interview onto Reddit. And so if we read through what all Geoff said during this part regarding Torbjorn, he actually already talked about the throne turrets, the decision to rework Molten core, and even the idea of the turret leveling up automatically. Now, to be fair, I remember reading this interview back when it was first released, but I guess it for the most part kind of went under the radar in light of Hammond, as the post itself doesn't have a whole lot of views, and I don't recall any other YouTubers or news outlets really covering what Geoff said here. So just to give you a bit of peace of mind in case you thought you had already heard this interview information somewhere before, it was most likely from this Seagull interview with Geoff Goodman. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below regarding what has already been revealed regarding the upcoming Torbjorn rework. Do you like the idea of where these changes are going, or do you have your own ideas about how he could possibly be fixed? As always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel and keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.